My name is Samantha Hendricks. I'm the event coordinator here at Nicola's Books and at Schuler Books. We have 3 stores in the state of Michigan, all across the bottom half of the state, Lansing, Grand Rapids, and then Nicola's here in Ann Arbor. And this evening, we are joined by Phoenix, Duffy, and Sara and Noah to present The Grass is Always Greenest Under Our Own Feet. Good evening, ladies.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, I'm so excited to have you joining us. So Phoenix, why don't you start us off and give us a quick synopsis of the book?
Okay, I just want to say thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. So our book is about 2 light-shifting teenage superheroes who biohack an old Earth paradigm town to heal it from lack, racism, corporate injustice, and greed, and environmental injustice.
Awesome. So what brought you, Sara, maybe you can take this question. What brought you to writing this book?
Well, it was a really serendipitous occasion when I moved to California in 2016. I got there September 2016, and by way of having The Doors as my favorite band and Jim Morrison, I knew he lived there when he was a sophomore, freshman in high school. So I walked by his home that he lived at, and 3 doors down from there was this really cool spiritual center called the Home of Truth. So I started going to spiritual center services right before Christmas that year. And I met this really vivacious, lovely, lively woman and found out it was Phoenix. And she said, because she said it was her first winter there, and she was so grateful to be have a little reprieve from the ice and snow. And so then we just bonded, and she was a kindred spirit. So long story short, we became housemates, and we had so many magical adventures in California. And we just started saying these interesting sayings. Because I had been a longtime vegan person, I had already peppered my speech with things like feed 2 birds with 1 scone, or I would make up, different sayings for the old aphorisms and adages that were violent, either towards animals or humans. And then we started doing all kinds of language, just making the language more fun and whimsical, uplifting. So, and then Phoenix was like, we have to write a book. And then it turned into an illustrated book. And yeah.
Awesome. So what was your inspiration for the characters in this book? And I have to apologize. My laptop must not be plugged in all the way. So I'm going to disappear for a second, but I'll come right back. But go ahead and answer that question. What was your inspiration for the characters in this book?
Do you want me to answer that question?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sure. The inspiration for the characters were people, we named them interesting names like Serendipity and Synchronicity, Heaven Ridge, the 2 teenagers that are the main characters of the book. And we're always finding serendipitous and synchronicity in a lot of our daily time that we had in California, which is what inspired us to write the book, of course. And also we have a flying pig in the book called Freedom. And so he was inspired because we believe in the pig being, free and not for dinner or breakfast, right? So he's actually a pet in the family and he flies. So you know how sometimes we say, well, that'll happen when pigs fly. Well, we want to say, well, we're going to have a flying pig because everything in this book is going to be based on that kind of idea that, everything's going to fly in this book and it's all going to be a different utopia than what what we've been used to in, regular society. Because, so I think I'm trying to think like there's so many characters that I like to mention, but really we have the wise woman, Aunt Benita Lightbody, and she's kind of in her 50s and she's very wise. She has all this knowledge and she can share all these different things and people really enjoy listening to her. And I'm trying to think what else, Sara, you have something to add about that? Because I feel like you do.
Well, there might be some heavily fictionalized characters in the sense of we would meet people who might say things, and then we might say, oh, we can kind of base this person, this character, just like a little impetus, a little nugget of a catalyst. And then from there we would flesh it out, like, well, what would the person say and what would they do? And really we spent a lot of time creating the universe where the family lives in the utopian village, and where they're really just able to be in nature and be very healed and nourished by their relationship with the natural world. And as Phoenix mentioned, Aunt Benita Lightbody, she's very much like the Earth Mother, very nurturing and very wise with herbal wisdom. And then some of the other characters, honestly, there were people that we met in California, strangers, some of them younger people in their 20s, and they were so embodying these characteristics of really living in a way that I didn't exactly live through when I was growing up. They felt like they were unencumbered by some of the burdens of society, and they were able to really tap into the natural world and the healing elements of the natural world.
Interesting. So what kind of research was required to do this book? I know you said you pulled from a lot of your day-to-day experiences, but was there anything that you needed to research to write this book? I don't know who wants to take this one first.
Yeah. Phoenix, well, I'll start. Phoenix has been an energy healer for decades. And so I know some of her training was useful. I graduated from a Buddhist college in Boulder, Colorado called Naropa. I received a graduate degree in 2004 there. So I feel like, and Phoenix has a background in biology from her higher education. So I feel like we kind of brought with us the little tricks and tools and things that inspired us over the years. So there was some research, but it was, because this is fictionalized, we did create some magical elements to the story, but they're based on some level of reality. They are based on, real reality too.
Yeah.
Phoenix, go ahead.
Oh, we didn't want to legally run into any issues. So when we were talking about certain social justice issues, we had to research a lot of how we would word it. And for instance, when we were talking about extracting nutrients out of the earth I should say, maybe raping and pillaging the earth, we would just say, we would call it frapping, which is kind of a take on fracking. So things like that we had to sort of dig into. And then there was also a plant called the cacao joanna. And so it's a cross between the cacao plant and the properties in the raw cacao. And then there's also the plant, the hemp, the hemp plant. And so we took the best of both and combined it. And so we have this fictional plant that's a crossbreed between the two. And hey, maybe someday somebody will do that, right? But it was like we took the best of all the nutrients of all that, and the characters would use it with the other characters to heal people of certain sicknesses. Like one character is in a wheelchair, and he takes it, and he gets out, and the canaries are kind of dead in the cave at one point, and they use the healing balm on them, they come to life. So I'm sure Sarah can add more. There's lots of.
Well, that's an interesting point. And I do use herbal. I'm one of the people who, I go to traditional Chinese medicine, I go to Ayurvedic healers. There's wonderful traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic healers that I've found in Colorado. And I use a topical, I had an injury, and there was a wonderful person in California who made this healing balm, and it was just helpful, the CBD cream. But I also go to cacao ceremonies, and there's just a very, very generous embodiment of the plant I would always joke, I used to joke, my three food groups are like green tea and chocolate, and I forget the other one, but it was just because every day, Phoenix could attest to this, I'd wake up and eat dark chocolate and get my green tea. And that's part of what the book's about too, is just, there are really interesting biological properties that we did do some research about, what plants get the most chlorophyll, and what would be some ways that the plants themselves can, what are the biological properties that allow these plants to be so healing. And Aunt Benita, the character in the book, she is this wise woman who really knows all of the garden realm and what really does do the healing.
That's really cool that you were able to implement your normal everyday routines and your education into writing this book. So that's very cool. I want to encourage anyone that's watching to send in questions in our comments. I'm happy to get those asked for you. Before we go to those, I want to talk about the uniqueness of having two writers on a book, also an illustrator as well. So how did the writing process work for you? Phoenix, do you want to start with that question?
Well, I really enjoy writing with a partner, and traditionally I've been doing a lot of screenwriting actually for movies. And so the book was a whole new genre for me, so to speak. And so I learned from my screenwriting days that it's really helpful to have a second or third person to kind of, bounce the ideas off. And Sara was wonderful because we both have the same mindset and same heart set. And we really are kind of on the same plane when we were writing this book of like what we really wanted to portray. And, so I enjoyed having that second opinion about it, because maybe the way I was looking at it wasn't quite right. And sometimes it'd be like, okay, maybe our schedules were mixed up or something, but for the most part, it was really 100% positive, for me to have that extra person. And I think that's what I want to say about it.
Sara, do you have anything to add?
Yes, yeah. My typical expression of writing was in songwriting, and I was in an all-female rock and roll band back in Ann Arbor in the 90s. So, and I love songwriting but it's a really different genre, and it's different from poetry. So, and I had done a little bit of screenwriting as well. And it's just interesting how with those genres, there's a lot about what you leave out, And then the word choices become so important, and the scene, the backdrop becomes so important. So with Phoenix having the writing experience and then with my experience as well, I felt like we were able to gel really well. And there was a lot of joy that we were trying to express through the book. And a lot of that surprisingly came out in what was not written in words, but what we were describing for the 17 illustrations in the book. And we would write very detailed descriptions for our illustrator. And I think because writing for film is a very visual medium, that we were able to, with what Phoenix had in her expertise and what I had done a little bit with songwriting, I think we're able to really come together with that. And we were able to just schedule time and then just type notes and make it really just back and forth with the whole manuscript.
So it was very collaborative. It wasn't like Phoenix would write a chapter and then Sara would write a chapter. Everything was done together.
Everything was done together. And the book is relatively short. The 17 illustrations and the 17 pages of written words, but we put because we put so much into the illustrations, even if somebody wasn't reading the words, they would be able to kind of tell the story. So it's really like, and especially because our illustrator, Carrie Burgo, is so wonderful to be able to capture what we were intending and just really bring it forward.
That's awesome. It was Kathy a friend of yours or someone that you had reached out to? How did that relationship come about?
So our illustrator, Carrie Bargo, she was one of my clients because I've been doing the energy healing for quite a while, intuitive energy healing. And so she was one of my clients, and somehow I remembered that she had been an illustrator. And so I think I talked to her about it. She's like, heck yeah, I want to do this. And she had just had a baby. So she's trying to do this while she's a brand new mother, and she has a couple other kids. And we're like,
Goodness.
oh, wow, she's doing it at midnight, trying to get it all done. And we're like, no, but this detail has to be perfect. It was a great relationship. We really enjoyed it. Really had a good time in seeing it come to life, what we had in our heads come to life, for the story of it, so yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. We do have a question from Melissa Cook. Hi, Melissa. Thanks for watching. How did you resolve differences of opinion on which way to go with this story?
That's a really good question. I think there were times that it wasn't like we butted heads or anything. It was like fighting for the characters, just seeing the nuances of the characters a little differently. And because there were, the verbiage it's such a short book in the writing, every word's important and every word choice was meaningful. But I think we both were willing to think about it. Like, oh yeah, how would that come across? And then we would kind of explain, this person has to passionately express something, but how does that come across so it isn't angry? Or this person has to say something, but how does that come across so it isn't demeaning? And I think we did a really good job of staying passionate about the subject matter, and also really getting to that point of inclusivity, because we wanted the book to have diverse voices and diverse opinions, but also just be embodying that magical element of what we both brought together, of being from the Midwest and having the Midwestern sentiment, but also having met in California and the magical elements of our experiences there in California.
Wonderful. Thanks, Melissa, for that question. Now, what would you say is the appropriate age range for the book?
Well, so we kind of feel like it's for everybody. However, we have to sort of do it for, marketing purposes, but it's really young adults. And I think teens and young adults are our best, but there's so many women, men that are into energy healing and holistic health. And then we have the whole social justice group. And it's a different way of handling social justice, even though it's fictional. We're really kind of mirroring real life, and we're utilizing a higher consciousness and a shifting of a paradigm, sort of wording and things, subjects that we present in the book kind of bring that out. And so I think that's what I want to say about that. But Sarah, did you want to add?
Yeah, when we wrote it, we wanted it to be a book for people of all ages. And we've gotten great response from children who are 8, 9 and older, and from their grandparents. And like Phoenix mentioned, people in their 20s as well. So because of the illustrations, I think it is not a graphic novel, but I think it could be interesting to people who were interested in visual media. And some of the thematic subjects that are talked about, like violence in a prison setting, excessive use of force in a legal setting. Those are adult themes, but we deal with it in we try to deal with it in a tactful way where there is a solution to problems. And the young people are the heroes and heroines of the book. The young people are the ones who come up with the idea that love is the eternal solvent, that will help to, and using nature, natural elements of nature to gain that strength to make changes in the world that they, because the world that they go to is a more dystopian village that they try to save.
Wonderful. I want to, I'm noticing that our numbers are going up as people are watching. So I want to encourage anyone that just joined us to drop questions in the comments below, and we'll get to those in a second. I did notice in your little bios that there was talk of an animation project involved with the book. Can either of you elaborate on that?
Well, for instance, when Sarah and I first talked about this, I was thinking, I thought we got to write a movie. We should just write the movie. And Sarah's like, no, we should write the book. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. We should write the book. But I always had in my head that this is going to be a movie and this is going to be on Pixar and that's it. You know, like it's in my head. And I mean, when I describe a lot of the characters and what's going on, and that they start off in this town called Starseed because they're star seeds, which a lot of people can look that up online if they want, but it's basically, it's a utopian village and they're going to this old paradigm and all this kind of, the way it's going, it just feels like it's going to be an animated, character driven movie, and we need it now. We need it right now for what's going on with all the social justice issues and all the things coming up. We definitely need it. And so we are working on a script right now. We're just kind of searching around to see like who might be interested. I mean, Sarah has talked about perhaps it being like a TV, show as well. Like that's so, and Sarah can tell you more about that. But so either movie or TV, we're in for it. We're ready.
So if anybody's watching,
yes,
and they're digging this, let's do it.
Oh,
yeah. When we live when we did live in California, like one time Phoenix just kind of accidentally ended up at the front of Pixar because we lived in the East Bay of San Francisco near Oakland and where Pixar's headquarters are. It just felt like this auspicious, and we were writing the book and she's like, I was trying to go this place and I just ended up there. And it was just funny. And yeah, and the writing the teleplay or the screenplay, it also, and we had a couple leads on some production companies. We're trying to follow up with that. But also because the inspiration that I get from literary forms, including movies, it's very big. Books and film growing up was a fun family adventure. And so it would be meaningful to try to get this translated to the screen, big screen or small screen.
Well, and I think it's such, I think that's so relevant right now because there's so many books being turned into movies and television shows and things because of the streaming networks for sure. So, wonderful. So what's next for you? You talked a little bit about this screenplay option and what you're doing with that. Do you think you're going to write another book? What's coming up next for you guys?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure we will. I think it's more just like the probably getting it on the big screen would be number one. But like, of course, there'll be sequels because the way it goes is these teenage superheroes, they live in a town that's a utopia, and there's so many towns that are dystopia, dystopian societies, that they can go to town after town after town after town, and they have different social issues after social issue, and so it can continue on as however many cities there are in the entire universe, or world. So what do you think, Sarah? Yeah.
Yeah, we put a lot of care and thought into creating their fictional universe. And I definitely want to revisit it and even in the book, we have a lot of different elements and themes is ancestral healing, which is a field in energy healing, to take the knowledge of the ancestors and transform it and transmute it into where any of the pain from the past is resolved in the present day. And that can be done through nature or other natural elements and many other ways. So we in the book, Aunt Benita mentions her ancestors who were part of the village that but they were already using the elements of nature like roses and other healing modalities. So there's a lot of richness that we wove in there to make a fertile ground for either prequels or sequels. Yeah.
Nice. Well, how do people keep track of you and find you to know what's coming up next for you?
Well, on our website is thegrassasalwaysgreenest.com. So you can find us on there and you can contact us on there. And if there's any announcements, we'll announce it on there. You'll be the first to know, of course. I'm trying to think. We have our, so that's our website. And we do have a YouTube channel. We're just about to start it, but there's no content on it now, but we just set it up. So give us a minute here. What do we call it, Sarah? Thriving in 5D. We're trying to figure out which one to go with on that.
Mm-hmm. And we have a Facebook book fans, The Grass is Always Greenest under our own feet, book fans. So that's, we'll keep that updated along with the Instagram.
The Grass is Always Greenest on Instagram. Yeah.
Awesome. So go and check them out. You can also find copies of their books at nicholasbooks.com. You can just search The Grass is Always Greenest under our own feet, and that will come up for you. Thank you guys so much for joining us, Phoenix and Sarah. This has been wonderful. And if you missed this program, you can watch it for quite a bit here on Facebook. You can also check us out on our YouTube channel as well. So have a wonderful evening, everyone, and see you next time.
Thank you,
Bye,
Samantha.
Phoenix. Bye, Sarah. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Bye.